Today is Monday, March 17th. We're talking about a severe weather outbreak that spawned dozens of tornadoes, leaving a trail of damage across several states. Also, new questions over a wartime act to target accused Venezuelan gang members in the U.S. Plus, we'll tell you how one-time VP candidate Tim Walz is stepping back into the national spotlight. The latest warning about a viral trend that could make you sick. And it's March. Time to bring on the madness. What to know about the start of the NCAA tournament. Those stories and even more news to know next. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. We start today with a deadly severe weather outbreak that brought destruction to 8 states from Missouri to Georgia. The massive storm system spawned at least 81 tornadoes as well as floods, severe dust storms, and wildfires. Homes, schools, and businesses were leveled, and at least 40 people died. Hundreds more were hurt, and the numbers could rise since there are people still listed as missing. And officials are still totaling the devastation. These storms finally exited the U.S. last night, but another wave of thunderstorms is now over the Great Lakes and could turn severe as it heads east today. Plus, there's still a high risk of fires throughout the Mid-South. Stay tuned. In a highly controversial move, the Trump administration went ahead with a plan to deport accused criminals in the U.S. despite a judge's ruling. The U.S. deported more than 200 people from Venezuela and sent them to a notorious supermax prison in El Salvador. The U.S. and Salvadorian governments say all of the migrants were members of dangerous gangs. The Trump administration was able to deport them by invoking an 18th century wartime law that lets the government take action without many of the legal processes typical in immigration cases. Well, over the weekend, a federal judge actually issued an order keeping the Trump administration from doing just that. When the ruling came down, the U.S. government said there were already 2 planes with the immigrants in the air, so the judge ordered those planes to be turned around. But they weren't. The White House explained in a statement yesterday, saying it's not that President Trump violated a court order, but that the federal court did not have power over the president's ability to conduct foreign affairs in the first place, especially once the migrants were no longer on American soil. Attorney General Pam Bondi went further, arguing the judge sided with terrorists over the safety of Americans. But rights groups accused President Trump of avoiding due process. Venezuela also condemned the U.S. over invoking the rarely used law, calling it a crime against humanity that unjustly criminalizes Venezuelan migration. Some legal experts say the Trump administration could be held in contempt of court for violating a judge's order. But so far, the court has not commented on that. The next hearing in this case is set for Friday. It's the biggest American military operation in the Middle East since President Trump returned to the White House, and it's expected to continue for weeks. The U.S. launched a series of attacks against the Houthi militant group in Yemen over the weekend, killing dozens of people. And the U.S. Defense Secretary says the attacks won't let up until the Houthis stop targeting shipping in the Red Sea. Though the Houthis say if that aggression is continued, they'll go after American ships. Remember, the Red Sea has been a target for the Houthis ever since the war in Gaza started, with militants saying they're acting in solidarity with Palestinians. But just like Hamas in Gaza, the Houthis are supported by Iran. And both the U.S. and Iran have been warning each other to stay out of it or pay the price. Meanwhile, in a separate airstrike, the American military killed a high-profile ISIS leader in Iraq. He's been described as one of the world's most dangerous men and one of the most important leaders of the entire terror group. Now, the U.S. military says he was killed along with another ISIS operative. President Trump posted about the attack on Truth Social, saying it was an example of peace through strength. Republican members of Congress have been dealing with angry backlash in their home districts. In fact, some have faced such strong uproar that GOP leaders have told Republican members to stop holding in-person town halls. But not all lawmakers have listened to that advice. And over the weekend, Americans once again confronted their Republican representatives about the federal government's mass layoffs and budget cuts. For example, North Carolina Congressman Chuck Edwards. He spoke in front of a packed auditorium in Asheville until crowds drowned him out with boos. Things grew especially heated when he started defending cuts by saying the country's debt has been ignored for too long. The scene became so hostile that security had to escort the congressman from the building. Gatherings in Georgia, Wisconsin, and Oregon have gone similarly. President Trump has dismissed the outrage, though, arguing that protesters aren't actually upset, but are being paid by Democrats to make a scene. Democratic leaders say they don't need to pay anyone, and they've encouraged members of their party to hold their own town halls in Republican-held districts. The last Democratic vice presidential nominee did just that over the weekend. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz went to Iowa, where he said Democrats should hear the primal scream coming from America right now and stand up for what's right. Party leaders say the goal is to eventually hold events across the country to highlight some of the less popular proposals from President Trump and the rest of the GOP. Not all Republicans are giving up on the town halls, though. Even Congressman Chuck Edwards spoke about this weekend's chaotic town hall by saying, quote, "enjoyed the lively conversation." Once again, the federal government barely avoided a shutdown. President Trump signed a bill Saturday to keep funding at current levels for the next 6 months, with a few adjustments. The Senate passed the bill on Friday when Democratic leader Chuck Schumer and a handful of his party members decided to vote with Republicans on the bill. It's caused a bit of a rift between Dems, since some believe it's important to avoid a shutdown no matter what, but others saw the spending bill as a rare opportunity for them to have a voice against President Trump's cost-cutting moves, even without control of Congress. Either way, though, it's now law, and Congress is moving on. Next up for Republican lawmakers, more of President Trump's signature priorities like border security and tax cuts. We have more news for you still ahead, but first, this episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. I really do think therapy should be accessible, not just a luxury. But the reality is, traditional in-person therapy can cost a lot, $100 to $250 per session, which adds up fast. But with BetterHelp online therapy, you can save, on average, up to 50% per session. In fact, you pay just a flat fee for weekly sessions at a price that makes sense. And if it can help with things like anxiety or even everyday stress, isn't it worth it? I think so. BetterHelp ensures therapy is within reach. For me, my health, both mental and physical, is important enough that it's worth investing in. So just like I pay to go to workout classes weekly, I pay for therapy. And if you're looking for a convenient, affordable option that lets you fit therapy into a busy life, give BetterHelp a try. Your well-being is worth it. Visit betterhelp.com/newsworthy today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/newsworthy. Now, back to the news. Happy St. Patrick's Day. It's the day to celebrate all things Irish, including St. Patrick, the patron saint of Ireland. It's a global celebration, but it's most prominent here in the U.S., from today's parade in New York City to the Chicago River turning green. That said, it is a national holiday in Ireland, too, with plenty of cultural festivities. And Irish leaders are using the day to promote partnerships across the world. The rest of us can celebrate with parades, Irish foods, and green everything. There are also plenty of discounts and specials available, like green beer and shamrock shakes. America's top cybersecurity officials are warning about a ransomware scheme that's become expensive and potentially dangerous. They're bringing attention to a software called Medusa. It's been launching ransomware attacks for years with a few different techniques, but just in the last month, it's hit hundreds of Americans that the FBI knows about, and they include some in critical industries like medical, legal, insurance, and education. Like with other ransomware attacks, this one encrypts people's data and threatens to publicly release it unless a ransom is paid. To protect yourself, the FBI recommends updating your operating systems using multi-factor authentication for all services like email and more. And if you do end up falling victim to Medusa, officials say it's important to never pay the ransom, especially since with this attack, people are getting targeted multiple times and end up paying multiple ransoms. The investigation continues. American health officials are warning about a different kind of threat, recreational laughing gas. Specifically, the FDA put out an advisory against nitrous oxide, products like Galaxy Gas, Whip It, Miami Magic, and many more. They're sold on Amazon, eBay, Walmart, and many gas stations, smoke, and vape shops. They're basically what used to be commonly known as Whippets, and they can cause serious health problems like blood clots. The FDA says it's gotten a lot of reports about people getting sick from them recently. It's possible their popularity these days is fueled by online videos showing teenagers inhaling gas with flavors like tropical punch and vanilla cupcake. They've collected millions of views on TikTok, X, and YouTube. The Galaxy Gas website does have a disclaimer saying its products are only meant to be whipped cream chargers and aren't meant to be inhaled. But so far, no official comment about the new FDA advisory. A popular brand of coffee creamer is now being recalled. The issue is with 2 flavors of International Delight Creamer, Hazelnut and Cinnabon Classic Cinnamon Roll. The company says they spoiled months before they should have, and some people got sick. So if you have any at home, the FDA's advice is to throw it away. We have more information, including lot numbers, in a link posted on today's episode notes. College basketball fans, it's that time of year again, March Madness. The fields for both the men's and women's NCAA tournaments were revealed last night on Selection Sunday. In other words, you can now start filling out your bracket. The 4 top seeds in the men's tournament are the Auburn Tigers, the Duke Blue Devils, the Houston Cougars, and the Florida Gators. On the women's side, the number 1 seeds are the UCLA Bruins, the South Carolina Gamecocks, the USC Trojans, and the Texas Longhorns. The women's tournament starts Wednesday and runs until April 6th, with games being played on ESPN and ABC. The first games of the men's tournament kick off tomorrow. You can watch on CBS, TBS, TNT, or True TV until the championship game on April 7th. That's it for the main news, so now it's time for Money Monday, when we talk about one interesting money-related news story. But first, thanks to our sponsor, Honeylove. You know that feeling when you get home from a long day and immediately want to change into comfy clothes? With Honeylove, it doesn't have to be that way. Everything from their shapewear and bras to their leggings and tanks are designed to be comfortable and functional. Whether I'm in the Honeylove Legging 2.0, which I adore for its soft, breathable fabric, stylish look, and convenient pockets, and wear for working from home, working out, and running errands, or I'm heading to a special event when Honeylove is my go-to for shapewear, giving me support, confidence, and comfort all in one without ever rolling up or down. Or I need new everyday essentials that I'll actually be willing and wanting to wear. Honeylove has me covered and keeps me comfortable. So treat yourself to the most comfortable bras, leggings, shapewear, and more, and save 20% off site-wide at honeylove.com/newsworthy. Use our exclusive link to get 20% off, honeylove.com/newsworthy. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them, so please support our show and tell them we sent you. Treat yourself to Honeylove because you deserve it. Now, back to Money Monday. The price of gold has hit an all-time high. It surpassed $3,000 an ounce for the first time in history, just as a market sell-off tanked some of the biggest U.S. stocks. So what's going on? Well, economists say it's not surprising in the face of President Trump's tariffs and retaliation from America's trading partners. That's because gold is seen as sort of a safe haven during the times of uncertainty, since it's likely to keep more of its value than the U.S. dollar. Another factor in the big gold rush, demand from central banks, with China especially building its gold reserves month after month. Overall, the price of gold has risen about 14% this year, and it's expected to keep going up from here. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you enjoyed the show, we always appreciate it if you tell others. Or you can further support our work here and get access to ad-free episodes by becoming a Newsworthy Insider. Start your free trial at thenewsworthy.com/insider, and Wondery Plus subscribers can listen to episodes of The Newsworthy ad-free in the Wondery app. We'll be back with even more news to know tomorrow. For now, have a great day.